What's going on, guys? It's Nick here, back with another video. It's Saturday, so it's time to talk about who's rising the most in ADP. 2 weeks ago, we predicted that Joe Mixon, Brandon Aiyuk, Dameon Pierce, Brandon Cooks, and David Montgomery would rise in ADP. For the 5th straight week, we went 3-2 with those predictions. Mixon, Aiyuk, and David Montgomery all rose in ADP. Dameon Pierce, Brandon Cooks both fell. My guess is that Dameon Pierce fell because there's been some positive news surrounding Devin Singletary and his potential role in the receiving game. That's really all I could come up with, honestly, looking at things. I don't fully agree with it. I've maintained my ranking on Dameon Pierce. I still think he's a good pick. And then I also think Brandon Cooks has been a great pick all summer. He should not be falling in ADP. He is a great pick. So, who's been rising over the last 2 weeks besides those players? The number one riser has been Parris Campbell, which is kind of ironic because last week we talked about how all Giants players were dropping in ADP, including Parris Campbell. And I was confused about that because all of the news around Campbell had been like overwhelmingly positive. Kind of seems that the market has realized that that is the case now. And now his ADP is up 2 full rounds. He's still going in like the 16th round though. So, you know, on Underdog, that's a little bit more, but in a redraft league, he's still basically just your last pick in the draft. I still think that's fine. I don't think he's going to be some insane breakout this season, but 16th round is certainly a fine spot to take a shot on him late. If you want that, go for it. I think the entire Giants wide receiver room is a mess right now. I believe that throughout the summer, you know, in July, but really into August, we're going to have a much better understanding of how that's going to shake out, what that target share is going to look like. But while Campbell's a player that I've always liked, I do still recognize that his upside is a little bit capped because he's more of just a speed wide receiver. He is not someone that's going to go out there and command a significant target share, especially on a team that we know has Saquon Barkley, has Darren Waller. Like it's unlikely he has a huge breakout, but again, I'm fine with a dart throw on him in round 16. Second biggest riser is Ty Chandler, up almost 2 rounds. As we all know, Dalvin Cook cut by the Vikings, leaving Madison, Chandler, and McBride as the 3 leading running backs. I think that there's like a bunch of different outcomes that are possible with how this situation really shakes out. And to be honest, none of them really result in Ty Chandler being like a featured running back, let's say. Like, I don't think there's a world where they head into the season with those 3, where Madison gets injured and they don't bring someone else on. Like, there's no way they would ride throughout the rest of the season with Chandler and McBride as their only 2 running backs. So I think Chandler's a perfectly good pick. He's another one that it's like, you know, totally fine as a dart throw late in drafts. He can definitely like way outproduce his ADP, provide you with some decent weeks, a little bit of security if you took Madison, something like that. Like, he's a totally fine pick, but again, not someone that I'm expecting to have a huge breakout. Moving even earlier, Rondale Moore is up 9 spots, and that's being, you know, the number one riser 2 weeks ago. So he was a huge riser before this. Then even in the last 2 weeks, still going up draft board. So he has been skyrocketing in ADP. I'll put up the graphic that shows ADP movement over time, which is free to view for any player on my website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. And you can really see just how wild the upswing is for Rondale Moore right now. You can very clearly see his movement after Hopkins was cut. That massive spike in the middle right there is Hopkins. But the fact that, you know, he's risen 4 rounds in less than a month is insane. I did talk about him in yesterday's machine learning predictions video for who could break out this season, and how the model thinks that he's a clear breakout candidate. And I do know other people agree with that and really like him. I personally don't see it that way. I do not think that I would be drafting him, especially at his new ADP in like Best Ball Mania, because a ton of people got him at a much better ADP. But then you shift over to redraft leagues, and it's like, I still probably wouldn't spend like that early of a pick on him for many of the reasons I said yesterday. Like, I think a lot of his production is just a little bit fake. The target share numbers look good, but they're so close to the line of scrimmage that they're not very high upside in fantasy. And I just think people are overvaluing his true ceiling, and especially a redraft league, for you to think that you're going out there and getting like consistent wide receiver 2 production from him, I think that's probably asking a lot. And if he's the number 1 riser and then like the number 3 riser and he just keeps going up and there's no clear indication that he's going to like, cap at this new ADP, he's probably going to keep going higher. I just don't like it. I would probably spend other picks. Moving a little bit earlier, Romeo Doubs continues to rise. He's up another 8 spots, now being taken in the mid 11th round. I actually wouldn't be surprised if he ended up closer to like round 9 come August. And I maintain that his ADP and Christian Watson's ADP should be much closer. Like Christian Watson is, approaching like the 3rd round in fantasy. He keeps rising, and Doubs is too. But it's like you've got Christian Watson as like an early 4th round pick right now, and you've got a mid 11th round pick for Doubs. That should be a lot closer. If you want to invest in the Packers offense, Doubs is still my favorite way of doing that, even at this new elevated ADP. He's going to have a really nice target share this season, and by all accounts, he has fantastic chemistry with Jordan Love. So I maintain he's a very good pick. Another riser outside top 100 is Tyler Boyd, and another one I don't really agree with. I am completely fine if people want to keep taking him earlier and earlier. Boyd is just never a player I end up with on my teams because I don't see the ceiling. Like, not only is he a little older than people think, I mean, he's entering his age 29 season. I don't think people think he's that old, but think about the ceiling. Like, even if Chase and Higgins got hurt this season, do we really think that Tyler Boyd would be fantasy relevant? Like, Chase missed weeks 8 through 12 last season. Higgins effectively missed weeks 5 and 14. He played like 1 snap and like 10 snaps in the other one. Like, he basically didn't play those games. Boyd was fully healthy in 5 of those weeks. His average stat line, you'd think, would be pretty good. It was 3 receptions for 34 yards and 1 total touchdown in the 5 weeks. Like, he's just not someone I want to spend a 9th round pick on because I don't see a scenario unless Chase and Higgins both get injured, in which case the offense will just fall apart. Like, I just don't see a world where he's hitting a true ceiling where you're really happy you made that pick. And if that's not even in his range of outcomes, well, what is in his range of outcomes is that he stinks this year. So if you have that in there and no chance that he really breaks out, why would you spend that pick? In terms of risers inside the top 100, a big one is Cam Akers. I actually moved him up the rankings maybe like a week and a half ago, and I now have him ranked ahead of even this new ADP, so I agree with the rise. McVay came out and said, quote, Cam is going to be a central figure of this offense. I think he's priming himself for a great season. He later said, quote, Cam is a stud. I'm really excited about what he's going to do for us this season. So if you kind of like look at those, you're like, okay, like, I mean, he clearly likes him, right? He clearly likes him a lot, but maybe it's like, oh, well, but they have these other players, right? No, I mean, look at the depth chart and it's a bunch of scrubs behind him. And so I just think it makes sense, right? I know a lot of people don't like Cam Akers, but when they've given him the ball, he's been good. He had that one time when he recovered the same season from a torn Achilles, which people usually don't ever recover in their career. It was same season he came back. Of course, he was inefficient. He had that like on and off time where they weren't sure if they wanted to use him. But when they've actually used him and he wasn't recovering from that injury, he's been really, really good. And so to hear reports that they're going to use him, to look at the depth chart and say, well, who else are they going to use? Of course they're going to use him. And to see a 7th round ADP, I mean, yeah, that makes sense. So he's now going in the late 6th round underdog. That equates to like roughly the mid 5th round in a redraft league. Again, I think those are both great spots to get him. Diontae Johnson also continues to rise in that same range. He is up close to half a round over the last 2 weeks, now going in the early 6th round. I will continue my flag plant that he is overvalued going that early and that he likely returns value. I genuinely think he is probably going to return value and be worth his current ADP. It is unlikely he exceeds value. I know many of you disagree with me on that, and that is okay. I just prefer players like Tony, Burks, Dotson, Cooks, Quentin Johnston, not necessarily all straight up over Diontae, though I do prefer some of them outright, but you can get that entire list, half a round to even a round and a half after Diontae. Again, I think he'll probably return value, but many of those players have a higher ceiling and come at a lower cost. I would just rather draft them. We've got an interesting trend happening with Keenan Allen. I felt like he was one of the most undervalued players in all of fantasy to start the offseason when he had an ADP in the 5th round. That made no sense. We had the Chargers. I don't know if people were scared that, I don't even know. Honestly, I think people were scared Eckler wasn't coming back, but that would have been a positive for Keenan Allen. It didn't make any sense that people didn't like Chargers players early this summer. You could get Keenan Allen in the 5th round. You could get Austin Eckler in round 2 at times. It made absolutely no sense. But Keenan Allen's ADP has now gone up basically every day since then. And he is about to be taken in the 3rd round soon. I loved Keenan Allen in round 5. I hate him in round 3. I can get over his age concerns and the question marks around what his target share is going to be when everyone is healthy, also adding in Quentin Johnson. I can get over those concerns in round 5. I need a lot more certainty in round 3, and so I can't justify him just going that early. I'm going to be passing on with the new ADP because also I have plenty of drafts where I drafted him in the 5th round, so why would I pay this new price tag in round 3? Another big-time riser I alluded to before is Brandon Aiyuk. He's reportedly having a fantastic camp, though, to be fair, we get that report every summer and then the season happens. I do have to defend my guy a little bit, though. You guys know I'm a Brandon Aiyuk truther. I think he's a very good wide receiver. He had 78 receptions, over 1,000 yards, 8 touchdowns last season, catching passes from 3 different quarterbacks. He posted elite success rates in all but 2 routes, 91st percentile success rate versus man, 89th percentile success rate versus press, according to Matt Harmon. He is the starting X wide receiver entering his prime on a Kyle Shanahan offense that honestly was very, very good last season, is reportedly better over the summer into this year. I recognize that he has burned people in the past, but he was a wide receiver 24 last season in points per game. And again, like I said, has reportedly improved as a player. He's now going 28th, even at his new ADP. So yes, I think the trend up is warranted, and I will still be drafting him. So that's it for the risers. 5 players that I think over the next 2 weeks are going to rise by ADP are 3 wide receivers I mentioned in the Friday video that I think are going to break out this season: London, Elijah Moore, and Sky Moore. I just think they're being undervalued right now, and people are going to recognize that soon. Marvin Mims, because I believe in the talent. He hasn't gotten any hype yet, but any story about hype from him is going to skyrocket his ADP. And then Ezekiel Elliott. I just think people are going to realize that he's going to sign somewhere. It's possible he signs with Dallas again, which would, his ADP would go way up from there. But anywhere he signs, which he's going to, his ADP will go up. I think that he's going to rise over the next 2 weeks. Again, you can see the chart for ADP changes for free on my website, thefantasyfootballadvice.com. You can see the top risers, but also you can see individual players, how they're moving over time. Be sure to like this video if you've watched this far. I'll be back tomorrow with an underdog draft strategy, Monday for Mock Draft Monday, and then Tuesday live 6:30 Eastern to an underdog draft with all of you. That, my friends, is in this one. Hope you all enjoyed. If you did, how about hitting the like button and how about subscribing to the channel if you're new here. Thanks for watching.